we saw Albert, who is moving toward the castle library, and after coming back from the forbidden library, Lloyd was reading magic books in the castle library. Albert enters in library. Now, Albert has started practicing his magic. He hit the target perfectly, impressing everyone. Lloyd says that Albert was really good at magic, and mentioned that Albert is the second prince for the Saloon throne, and he is also physically capable as well as smart. People talk about that possibly he becoming the next king. Lloyd also says that Albert has the authority to access all the facilities of the castle, and he invited him to join them. Lloyd says this is rare chance that he is allowed to use magic inside the castle, and he is grateful for this. Albert tells Lloyd that it's his turn to use magic, and Lloyd agrees. Lloyd says he doesn't care about being the king of Saloon. Also, he doesn't want to get involved in race of getting thrown. All he wants is to study magic without getting people's attention. Lloyd thinks he only need to hit all targets. Grimm says this is hard for you to hit them without causing damage. Lloyd uses his magic and wisely hits all the targets. Everyone standing there impressed by Lloyd and start clapping. But one man says hitting targets seems to be the best Lloyd can do. After listening to that line, Grimm gets frustrated and calls the man a dumbass, saying Lloyd actually managed to graze all the targets, which is impressive. Lloyd thinks it's good to add spin to fireballs because it makes them more stable without using much energy. Grimm thinks Lloyd is crazy about magics. Alberts tells Lloyd he's taking a break and Lloyd can play around if he wants. Lloyd agrees and was happy as he got a chance to perform magic. Lloyd tells Grimm it's great because he has an empty place to practice and he wants to try many things, but Grimm asks what he wants to try. Lloyd says for now he wants to try doing 2 spells at once like Grimm. Grimm says it's impossible for humans, since only demons can do that, only because they have 2 mouths. Lloyd uses a special magic to put Grimm in his hand, and says it worked. Grimm warns that if someone can do that, they shouldn't try to absorb a demon into their body. Lloyd smiled and says, "Let try it." Lloyd asked Grimm if he could use Perlancy and Cenis. Grimm reminded Lloyd that he's a demon, so casting advanced magic will be easy. Lloyd agreed, and they started casting the spell, but Grimm seemed uncomfortable, and Lloyd asked what is wrong with him. Grimm angrily says that he should be the one asking questions, and asked what exactly he was doing. Lloyd says that it was just a spell stack. Spell stacking is the method to combine the incantations of multiple spells to make them faster. Lloyd was trying 100 different incantations using this method. Grimm was surprised and said it doesn't work like that. He explained that a single stack usually has 2 or 3 spells at once. Lloyd realized it would take forever this way. Lloyd says it seems like he can talk from his hand too, and he can talk from both mouths as well. Grimm asks if he's trying to cast 2 advanced spells at the same time. Lloyd says sorry as he need to use the hand also to cast both spells. He starts casting 2 spells, Perlancy and Cenis and Aculance Cascadia, simultaneously. Grimm got shocked and asks what's happening, saying it's unbelievable that Lloyd is using 2 different advanced spells together. Grimm notices a huge surge of magical energy. He thinks it's not safe to aim this powerful attack at anything, not even a target, and slowly, the magical energy increases and Lloyd tried to hit target. Lloyd uses the magic, creating a massive lightning in the area, amazing everyone outside. We saw inside castle a servant asked Prince Albert why he is giving so much attention to the 7th prince. Albert replies that both of them can't recognize talent. He explained that even though Lloyd may be good at magic, but he's just a child. How Lloyd hit all targets with fireball was done intentionally. Albert believed Lloyd was a prodigy and might become a great sage one day. He thinks that Lloyd would be a great asset someday. The servant said it wasn't surprising that Albert, as the future king, could obtain the service of a grand sage. Albert denied this, saying he just want to help and get his brother together. He mentioned that Lloyd might have already hit all the targets by now. The servant thought this was an overplaying. While looking outside the window, servant said that sun has already gone down. Grimm was surprised by Lloyd's attack. He says, Lloyd blew a hole in the sky, and now night is shining through. Lloyd looks surprisingly at the sky and quickly fix it. Grimm amazed, thinking, What's going on with this kid? Now Grimm is telling Lloyd to stay still while he helps him put on clothes and fix his hair. He even ties a ribbon for him. Grimm suddenly realizes he's acting like Lloyd's maid. He thinks that he should behave good and respectable until he take over Lloyd. Suddenly Lloyd sneezes, and Grimm says, does he have to sneeze now? Grimm gives him a cloth, and asks Lloyd to blow his nose. Grimm and Lloyd are reading books in library. Grimm is looking at some papers and notices something strange about the weather and wonders if it's a bad sign. He shows it to Lloyd and told that news about his magic is printed here. Lloyd stand up and stops reading book and say he got panicked for a moment. Suddenly, Lloyd notices something on the papers Grimm is holding. He points out a news article about an adventure company that cleared a difficult dungeon and found powerful items. Lloyd suggests they should go on a dungeon adventure, but Grimm makes him remembers that he can't leave because people will worry if they don't see him in the castle. Lloyd says to him that with a little magic and cleverness, they can solve that problem. Then Lloyd uses a spell to turn an acorn into a perfect replica of himself. Grimm is amazed by the magic and says it's incredible, and the wood replica looks like exactly Prince Lloyd. Lloyd says this replica looks exactly like the real thing, not just in how it looks, but also in the way its resin bones and skin mimic the real ones, and even the roots mimic the circulatory system. It can even make some simple movements by itself. Grimm thinks having a double like this could help him escape, but Lloyd denied, saying if it were that easy, he would have done it already. And the real problem is Silpha. Lloyd says that Silpha noticed every details about him, from height to weight, and she once noticed 0.07 millimeters. He doubts if he can fool her with a copy that can only act silly, which is why he installed Grimm's mind with the replica to fool Silpha. Lloyd leaves the castle by flying. While flying, he asks Grimm if he can hear him or not. Grimm replies that he can, and the picture is clear through his one eye too. Lloyd asks how things are going on Grimm's end. Grimm says he's not sure, but he thinks things are going fine. The maid saw Lloyd and noticed that the prince is giving more attention to his looks today, and his collar wasn't turned up like usual. Both maids found that Lloyd is looking cute. Grimm thinks that Lloyd doesn't seem to understand when to stop, as he was putting Grimm's mind into a doll and then attaching his body separately. Lloyd asked Grimm to keep an eye on Silpha and act just E. Grimm agreed, and he found the puppet amazing, which also have mana circulation. Grimm felt relieved that Lloyd was out of the picture, so he could do what he wanted without interruptions. Lloyd calls Grimm, which catches Grimm off guard and makes him nervous. Lloyd tells Grimm that he's really happy to have him as his companion, and that he relies on him. Grimm tells Lloyd not to worry about it, just go and come back quickly. Lloyd agrees, but he realizes he doesn't know where the dungeon is. Suddenly, he sees a girl getting chased by monsters. Grimm confirms it too. The girl starts to fight back with magic and defeats the monsters, which impressed Lloyd. Lloyd notices how she's breathing and thinks she must be a skilled martial artist. The girl jokingly asks Monster to try again in 100 years. Lloyd says he read in book that in other countries, some people use something called ki by breathing to do amazing things. The girl warrior sees Lloyd hiding and asked Lloyd who is he, and to come out. Lloyd was surprised that she was able to see him from far away and thought about leaving, but he decided to stay there and ask her about the dungeon and key. Grimm warned Lloyd that if he went out now, he'd be recognized, as he is 7th Prince of Saloum. Lloyd agreed, but the girl thought that he is an enemy because Lloyd didn't respond. She quickly moved towards Lloyd, and ready to attack to protect himself. Lloyd changed his appearance and introduced himself as Robert and says he is a rookie adventurer. The girl was shocked. Lloyd used a magic spell to change his looks and appearance, but he could only transform into people he had seen before. Lloyd combined 2 spells, which he learned from Grimm, to create a completely new form that nobody had seen before. In one hand, Lloyd held his original appearance, and in the other hand, he had Albert's body. By merging these, he created a unique body. She says her name is Tao, and she is a B-rank adventurer. Robert says nice to meet her. Lloyd asked Grimm if she had noticed anything suspicious, but Grimm says it doesn't seem like that. Tao found Lloyd hot and thinks she had spent years training before leaving her martial arts school to meet someone. She has been disappointed because guys always like delicate girls, but now she felt herself lucky. She thought Lloyd would be her boyfriend. Lloyd suggested if they can clear a dungeon together, but Tao instantly says yes. Lloyd thanked her for helping. They went into a dungeon, and Tao started showing off her skills. She asked Robert if he saw how strong she was and if he had fallen for her because of it. Meanwhile, Lloyd is busy in collecting glowing rocks, not giving attention to Tao. Lloyd asked Tao if she was adventuring alone, and she said yes, as she hadn't found any good men yet. Grim wondered why Tao had chosen Lloyd. While eating, Lloyd, who had transformed into Robert, asked Tao if she used something called ki when she attacked. Tao asked if Robert knew about ki because not many people on the continent were familiar with it. Lloyd explained that ki was similar to mana in magic, and that how her breathing was important to use ki. Tao got impressed to see that Robert noticed her using this. She explained that her training revolved around breathing and using it to circulate ki, which gave her extraordinary power. Tao said that feeling the ki in her body took a lot of practice, but she could use it to move easily. Robert starts practicing breathing like Tao. Tao notices it when Robert seems to be struggling. She asks him if he was doing ki breathing. Robert replies yes. He's trying to copy the way she did it, but it's pretty hard. Tao is amazed and tells Robert that just by watching, he can't do it. She explains that if he is not used to it, ki breathing can make his lungs feel like they're on fire. Robert agrees, saying he also felt, this feels like separate energy in his body from mana. Robert believes in him that he can use this power, and it will be useful for magic. Tao is impressed, and offers to teach Robert more about ki. Robert thanks Tao, and she asks him to keep up the breathing until they leave the dungeon. Robert agrees, saying yes, ma'am. Meanwhile, Grim starts thinking that Lloyd is weird. He's living the good life, but he doesn't care about any of it, and he only shows interest in magic. Slifa finds Lloyd and walks near to him, without realizing it is a clone. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Tao uses a powerful ki blast to defeat the dungeon boss, Grey Wolf. She informs Robert about this, and they decide to open the treasure chest now as the boss is finished. Tao says that even though this dungeon isn't very advanced, the treasure can be impressive. Robert finds it interesting that the treasure chest only opens after defeating the boss. Tao remarks that Robert seems more interested in the treasure. Robert becomes curious about what's inside. Tao notices that Robert is trying to learn ki breathing quickly and thinks maybe she has found a winner, and her grandfather would approve him as her fiancé. She only needs to convert teaching in the romance between master and student. Robert suggests to open the treasure, and Tao agrees, but she doubts there might be nothing good in it. As they open the box, they're suddenly attacked by a powerful force that cuts through the ground. A demon named Lich comes out from the box. Robert asks if it's a new boss, and Tao is shocked to see it. She said it was a lich, and Lloyd asked what kind of creature a lich is. She ignored Lloyd's question and asked Robert, aka Lloyd, to leave the dungeon first. Lloyd wants to stay there, but Tao pushes him out of the dungeon, and now started to attack Tao, but she managed to escape his attacks. She also started fighting back to finish him. She is still thinking about how this low-level dungeon has a monster like Lich. She is ready to fight and buy some time for Robert to escape. Now, we see two small monsters who hear something coming towards them. It's none other than Robert, aka Lloyd, who has been pushed by Tao to go out. Lloyd thinks he still needs to learn more about ki and dungeon. A magical barrier surrounded his body to protect it from damage, and he crushed both monsters present there. He is still wondering why Ta sent him away from her. He asked Grim regarding the same, but Grim did not reply. After a few attempts, Grim said, "Prince Lloyd, come home. Save me." By listening to this, Lloyd is shocked. On the other side, Lich and Tao are fighting. Tao gets wounded badly, and she thinks she is going to die soon. She decided to back off to escape. Now, started to talk about the ki technique to Tao, and Ling says he already ate someone with the ki technique. Lich further says you are not worth eating, but the boy Robert is something else and very different. Thinking about Robert makes Tao happy, and she smiles while talking about him. Tao gets angry, and using the ki technique, she attacks Ling, but he puts up a barrier to protect him. But she kept using attacks to breach the barrier. After continuous attacks, she was able to break the barrier with a powerful blast. These powerful attacks make her tired very much, and she can't move her body. And Lich is still alive. Somehow he managed to avoid her attack. He says you are weak, and his single attack is more powerful than hers. He attacks her with a powerful strike, but his attack seems broken, and we see Lloyd has arrived to save Tao. Lloyd says, "Let's play to Ling," with a smile. With a super fast speed, Robert goes to Lich's back to attack him, on which Lich says it's impossible for anyone without incantation. Lich again starts to attack Robert, but his barrier stops all his attacks. The attack continued and robbed the defensive barrier to protect him. Here, Lloyd is thinking about how to combine mana and ki to enhance power. Lloyd started to perform ki and managed to combine mana with it. To perform ki, Lloyd himself shattered the barrier. This action makes Lich happier, and he attracts Robert. But now Robert is also ready to perform to his full potential. He managed to escape the attack. This attack and defense process goes on and on. Lloyd uses his ki technique to vanquish Lich attacks, but it could not damage him, so Lloyd again performs it with some modifications. Now Lloyd continuously and rapidly uses his attacks on Lich. Lich is surprised to see Lloyd's attacks, which makes him think, how is he so powerful? And finally, with Lloyd's powerful attack, the Lich's barrier and his body, but in two halves, Lloyd succeeded against Lich and finished him. Both are very happy with how they are looking at Treasure's chest, and say all this was a waste of time.